Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chrism, and welcome to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. And I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat room, everybody that I can see. And I'd like to welcome everybody who might be listening on Facebook, so the Facebook group. And looks to me like the sound is going well. I'm counting on Hungarian Lotus, and she is telling me that the sound is great. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I know that the chat room doesn't work for everybody, so I'm glad to see that that Hungarian Lotus is listening on her telephone. And yeah, so here we go. Kundalini. Kundalini is the explanation for everything. For those that have it activated or in the awakened state. And what I mean by that is that once you're in the activated state, once you have gone through all of the lifetimes, all of the learnings, all of the refinement, all of the hundreds and hundreds of human contact that have slowly, over time, refined you to the point where you can have a Kundalini activation, and then from that activation to go straight into the awakening. It is the explanation for everything. And if you look at it from the activated or awakened perspective, you can see the lives of the other people who are still sleeping around you. It's the explanation for them as well. It may not, from the unawakened or unactivated perspective, be that way for them. You know, the reality for them will be, you know, whatever it is in whatever culture or society that they're in. That doesn't include, you know, perhaps out-of-body experiences or seeing entities or having the kind of dream life that is just as real and just as important as the waking life. And so, you know, it won't have the spontaneous movements such as Kriyas. It won't have the major organ expansion, you know, that Kundalini people can get. And so it's really important. I want to thank Ayman Hamoud, who is calling in from Syria. I'd like to thank him for letting me know that the sound is perfect. Thank you, sir. So continuing on. Sometimes I have to say, sometimes when I go into these monologues, I close my eyes and I just stream the Kundalini. I just give what she is wanting me to give, the sacred feminine, the sacred mother. And so I may not see you if you've called in or, you know, but I try to open my eyes every now and again just to say, okay, it is the explanation for everything. It's the explanation for the people that are still sleeping and, you know, what they're going through and how they're handling what they're going through. You know, what frequency of society are they in? What frequency of culture are they in? You know, so a couple of examples here would be, let's just use the Sanskriti or the Indian people in the Indus Peninsula of Asia, and how, you know, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are vegetarian, and they worship a cow, a certain kind of cow, and they have a very strong spiritual yearning and desire within them, and it's very, especially before, say, the contamination from European culture. Very shamanic in some ways. You know, if you look at the monkey god, the elephant god, you know, the various nagas or the serpent gods, it has a very shamanic component to it. And then you know, conversely, you come on over to the United States and You have a culture that is basically wrapped around capitalism and subduing the earth, which kind of the Christian attitude of subduing the earth, and making the earth do what you want it to do. Um, Very, very different types of attitudes. And yet, of course, the dominant society will try to initiate its changes upon other societies. You see that a lot in South America. United States corporations going down there and trying to fix societies that are more primitive than that in the United States or Europe as well. Going into India and introducing pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and all kinds of things that kill nature and that kill the natural processes in an agricultural perception. And so, there is that going on. But if you look at these different frequencies of society on a spiritual level, you see very different outlooks and interrelationships with nature and with life. And I want to say that because this contributes to the refinement aspect of the person that's going through the Kundalini. It's very important not to make it one society for the entire world. I think it's just as important to have diversity in society as much as we here in the States like to project a diversity of population, and in other countries as well. Like if you look at England, in London, it's a very diverse population from all over the world. And I will, suspect in some of the large metropolitan areas around the world as well. There's representatives of many, many different cultures all in one place. And these coalesce to introduce people into certain mannerisms, certain religious, spiritual practices that allow them to refine even faster within a Kundalini context. And now, these days, with the internet and with the introduction of Kundalini yoga in the 60s by Yogi Bhajan, the word Kundalini is more common in the world now than it was before. Excuse me, I'm going to have a sip of my tea here. It's much more common than it was before. And this is very important to understand. The actual word Kundalini, which is a Sanskriti word, a word that was engineered, I guess, by the Sanskriti people that were the forerunners to the modern day Hindu population in India. And this is the word that came to me within my own Kundalini. But it has other words: Greater Kanan Li from China, Red Serpent Energy from the Amazon basin of the shamanic cultures. I mean, every culture has its name for Kundalini, and as Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name will still smell as sweet. And this is that type of a scenario. And so it does mean everything to the Kundalini person. Kundalini in the activated or awakened state. And it may not, in the activated state, you're still going through the changes. You're still, your organs are expanding. You're being compelled to eat this and to not eat that, or to exercise this way, or having your dreams come alive for you in very different ways, like while you're wide awake, having what psychologists would call dream imagery coming to you while you're wide awake, without taking hallucinogens, or being compelled to take a hallucinogen such as ayahuasca, in order to further your distance on the path. It's very, very, very important for people to understand this. Kundalini means everything. It is everything. It is literally the hand of God and Goddess within the individual on this world. And I'd like to welcome the Purificator on the chat room. Hello, I recognize you. you've, you've been with us for a while. Good to see you. So, and then, as you're in the activated state and you're being compelled to change the way you think, to change the way you act with other people, to change your perception of yourself, to change, the level of egotism that is present, within most people. These changes contribute to the amazing experience of the actual awakening, where the energy of the Kundalini in your body actually joins with the divine energy, the whole cosmic consciousness scenario. And that is really beyond words. It's not something that I can really describe for you. It goes beyond the five sense or even the sixth sense of the human ability to to describe, I guess, is the word. so so it does mean everything, because it is everything. We are like, individual droplets in a hurricane, as I wrote on the Facebook just recently. We're like individual water droplets circling around a great eye. And if you look at the ancient uh, understanding that as above, so below, and you look at the Milky Way galaxy, and you see the Earth and the Sun, like individual droplets rotating around a galactic core, which can be seen as a cosmic hurricane, just in a, at different speeds and different variations of it. Well, it's the same thing that we are within the Kundalini context. We are that Earth and that Sun, and we are rotating around that great eye. And as we continue that rotation, that swirling around that great eye, we mature and we generate a stronger level of vibration, and to the point where we become that our own galaxy, our own special Kundalini galaxy, where we also have planets and life rotating around us, even as we speak right now. It doesn't have to be a spiral or a vortex. It often is, as above, so below, but it can be spherical as well, in the shape of a sphere. If you look at the human aura is basically in the shape of an egg around a person, with the wider aspect being over the top of the head and around the head, and the more narrow aspect being down there by the feet, but completely covered and expressing through those areas of the body. So it's not always going to be a vortex, although that kind of, if you look at that ovoid shape, that could be seen as a vortex. But it can happen in a spiritual or a spherical way as well. So I just wanted to run that past you, just to let you understand that this is no small event. And the guy that I was responding to said, well, I had a candy bar and I had a Coke, and I just, basically telling everybody he eats really badly. And then just next day, I'm just going to go out and run, and like implying that he's just going to run all those toxins out of his body. Well, it's not how that works. He'll still have that toxic buildup in him. The benzoic acids and the carbohydrates and and let's not forget all the attitudes and the emotions of the people who harvested the sugar cane, or who developed the artificial sugar, or their thoughts and their emotions as that went into the making, let's just say, of the soft drink, in addition to the thoughts and the vibrations and the impressions of the machines that were developed by those people having those thoughts and feelings and vibrations as they were making the machines, and that have not left the machines. Nobody's gone in and done a purification on these types of automated uh, facilities that make the beverage. And then, let's add into it the can or the bottle and the all of the imprintations that have been made upon that. And then let's add into that all of the thoughts and emotions and frequencies and vibrations of the people that have handled the can or that case or whatever it was. Just people just tend not to look at the minutia of of uh, of the frequencies and vibrations that come in to these things that we partake of. This gentleman obviously does not. Obviously, the fact that the cacao comes from South America and is often, taken through a real big processing. Here in Northern California, you take the short trip into San Francisco, and you can go to a chocolate manufacturer called Ghirardelli. And they got a big Ghirardelli Square down there by Fisherman's Wharf. And you can actually, I've taken Kundalini people down there, by the way, just an FYI, back when there was an ashram here. Anyway, as you go to the Ghirardelli chocolate manufacturer, they show you, behind the glass, you can watch the chocolate being stirred and being mixed, and you have these waterfalls of chocolate, like a chocolate syrup, going down a trough or a mechanism that will basically put it from one state to another. Just chocolate, making chocolate. So I just want to put that out there. But just think about it. That is real chocolate that people are really going to consume. And all of those people who are watching that chocolate go by, and all of their emotions, all of their imprintations, all of the force of their life that is present in their auric sheath, or that egg-shaped shell of the aura, is going straight into that chocolate. So I just want you to think about that. And then you think about the importance of growing your own food and producing your own food. And then you think about the idea of keeping your thoughts harmonious, keeping yourself within a serene understanding, keeping yourself in a balanced and productive state of grace as much as you can, but especially when you're handling your food, the food in the garden, and not just the food for you. So let's just say you have a beehive on your property, and you do the whole beekeeping scenario. Well, those bees partake of the flowers that you may be planting, and so of course you want to put the best vibrations into your handling of the flowers, your taking care of the flowers, not using pesticides, not using herbicides, not using fungicides, and really keeping it as blessed and organic garden as divine within you can produce. And those bees come and partake of those flowers and develop their honey, and you come in, you take some of their honey, not all of it. You take some of their honey, and boom, you have another level of sacred produce and some of the best that you can get. I mean, honey is a very, very, very nutritious substance, and so is some of the components of honey, like bee pollen and things of that nature. And so, there's an extreme level of importance with growing your own food and putting your own individual vibrations into that food. In a sense, our food production, even though we can survive on it, can be very polluted from a vibrational frequency standpoint. Well, and of course, so is our world. We're looking at shortwave, longwave, television signal, radio signal, internet signals. We're looking at some sort of a 5G network thing, which is kind of strange. Why do we need that? It's 4G seemed to be working just fine for everyone. So we're looking at all these these frequency levels of pollutant as well, and these frequencies go straight into the food that we eat and into our bodies as we consume them. Sorry, I just made some noise on that microphone. I'm wearing a headset, so I hope it's not too distracting for people. So there you have it. It does mean everything. Kundalini means everything. Everything. To everyone. And every form of creation. You know, and there are some species that know this, these ETs that come in and put implants on people. They understand. They want to measure the Kundalini. They want to try to find a way to harness the Kundalini. They don't understand that it's a consciousness. You know, they don't get that. All they know is, oh, it's really powerful. Let's try to do something with it. Very much the same way as the American farmer does. It's like, whoa, look at that land out there. Let's just make it do something for us instead of talking with the land and being with the land and treating with the land like a consciousness or like another person and being grateful and being loyal to it and helping it, nourishing it. No. They just use it, they strip it of all its minerals, and then they have to let it go fallow for like 10 years or whatever in order for it to gain some more mineral or growing ability, growing plants. And then once again, it's more of a rape of the land than it is a conscious nourishing of the land. And I know those are strong words, but it is what it is. I grew up on a farming family. I farmed the land for 14 years. Out there on the tractor, plowing it up, eating all that dust, and the stepfather I had at the time, just pouring in all the herbicides, insecticides, all the horrible pollution of the land that he could, because basically they only care about tonnage. How many tons per acre of produce or product will that land produce? That's the only concern. Oh, there are worms on that land? The army worms are on that land? Oh my God. Here, let's go to Monsanto and get some sort of a toxin that kills the birds when they eat the worms, that kills the little small animals that eat the worms, that kills all aspects of the environment just because that American farmer wants tonnage per acre. Okay, not a very respectful way. So, of course, I have personal experience with this, and it's not a good way. And so as much as you can, eat organic. And even organic in the American context is more about making money than it is about taking care of the earth. But, we have to change our society over here too. So look into growing your own foods so that you don't have the physical pollution of the food that you're growing, or the vibrational frequency pollution of the food that you want to eat. Okay, so there you have it. I could go on and on. I mean, I could do 100 shows just on this subject, but I just wanted to skim the surface right now. And we may come back to this in other conversations, but for the moment, I want to move on into another topic here. And, this other topic is about the reality of Kundalini and the realities that are coexistent with Kundalini. See, in the unawakened, unactivated consciousness, people think that if they can see with their eyes, taste with their tongue, hear with their ears, touch with their skin, smell with their nose, that's all there is to reality. Then you talk to any shaman or you talk to any kind of a primitive culture, they'll go, oh, no, there's much more. We have the bird reality, we have the insect reality, we have the plant reality, we have all these different societies of consciousness within the jungle or the forest, right? But in the societies that are currently addicted to science, because science can make computers that we're talking on right now. Science can make cars. Science can make jets. Science can make these incredible toxic weapons that wipe out all life on this world. Yay! Let's follow science. So they're addicted to science. Um, that is, science itself is one form of limited reality. Okay. The scientists will say, "Oh, well, as long as we have our hypotheses and we create a new hypothesis, it's like measuring a black hole. Let's take a picture of a black hole. Yay!" You know, they will move forward incrementally, and that's fine. That's fine. But there are concurrent realities that are existent with us right now, and this is what the Kundalini will open us up to. The concurrent realities, meaning the realities that are happening and that are presently expressing right now with you. And because you have the Kundalini in the activated or awakened state, you can participate in those realities, and they are just as strong as the physical reality that, I'm going to move my microphone here a little bit, of the physical realities that you are currently enjoying. So right now I'm looking out the window and I see the sun shining on the trees, and the leaves being illuminated by the sun. I see the window that needs to be cleaned. I see the the blue bottle up there, so I can see the colors. I can see the light. I can see the shapes. I can, if I didn't have these headphones on, I could probably hear the wind as well. Great. That's the physical reality, okay? However, with the Kundalini, we become the two that are one and the one that is two. So if you look at a Vasika Pisces mean two circles that interlink with each other, and that interlink space that's shaped like an oval, or if it's shaped in a very, like female reproductive organs, right there, boom. If it's shaped that way, that's where you are. You're inside of the two worlds that, because they have encircled each other, not in, but one part of it has encircled the other. You are in the two worlds at the same time, and you are in the one world that is composed of the two worlds. Okay, as you are there, and as the Sacred Mother has allowed you to progress within that world, learn how to walk, learn how to think, learn how to conceptualize the two. We're just going to use two worlds at this point. As you learn to walk, you learn to discern other forms of reality. These forms of reality will not always interplex with your physical reality, but they will sometimes. They will interplex with your physical reality, and it's very important that you understand that. And as you understand that, you also begin to understand that these levels of realities are just as real as your physical reality. Just as real. So when you go to sleep at night and you go into these other realities, they are real realities. It is real. In our society, we're so addicted to psychologists. It's like, oh, well, you're having manifestations of emotional content that is being projected into your subconsciousness, and during the sleep state, the subconsciousness is bringing into your awareness these issues, and they're coming up as archetypes, emotional archetypes. And here, let's see, I have a drug for you. Here we go. We'll write out the prescription. No more dreams for you. I'm sort of kidding there, but not completely. psychology is an extremely young science, and it doesn't really understand the greater and the larger perspective of consciousness or life, or the variations on those themes that are currently and concurrently experienced by us, certainly not within the Kundalini. Okay, the dreams are real. The dreams are real. And I have a student right now who, sometimes she'll go to of work. It's like, oh my God, I'm dreaming of work again. Here I am. I'm having to deal with this person. I'm having to deal with that person. I'm all these personalities that I have a problem with, and I'm having to deal with them. Well, that is the Kundalini in creating a reality, because God can do that. That is Kundalini creating a reality that allows you to work through the issues that you're having with other people at work. You get it? That is what is going on. And it's important for you to begin to place that into a mindset that treats it as real. Real. Now, let's take it a little step further, and let's go into the idea that, wow, you see a spider or a snake in your dream, and oh my gosh, you remember Chrism says, let it bite you. Let that snake take a big chunk out of you. Let that spider bite you, sting you, do whatever, right? Well, this is true. But because it is not the physical reality, it will not hurt you. But that doesn't take away from the solidity of the reality that you're experiencing with these creatures, with these animals, the snake or the spider. Sure, in the physical reality, you don't want to let the snake or the spider bite you. Certainly not. But in the other concurrent reality, and these are Kundalini creatures, the serpent and the spider, very Kundalini representations of Sacred Mother. In that reality, the Kundalini reality, the dream reality, so to speak, which is just as real, you let them bite you. That is showing that you are fearless, and that you're beginning to understand the differences between the two realities. And she's teaching you that by conquering your fear. And one of the best things you can do right off is to begin to take care of your levels of fear. And that is a different journey for each person. Okay. But one of the things that we really have a hard time with as unawakened people is this fear of the other reality, because it reminds us of death. Oh my God, there's a ghost in my house. And there's a ghost here in this house, and her name's Dorothy, and she's the previous owner, and she just kind of hangs out and watches stuff. It's perfectly harmless. But, oh my gosh, there's a ghost in my house, and that's a representation of death, and I don't want to experience death, even though I am going to experience death. I don't want to experience death right now. I don't want to experience death while I'm living. And yet some of these folks, these really nice people, they're the Ghostbuster types, right? They go in and it's like, oh my God, I want to get an EVP, get an electronic voice. I forget what the P stands for, processing. I want to electronically record this ghost saying, like, hello, it's like, stop smoking, whatever it's saying. I want to go into that haunted hotel and feel the chill. Oh well, so that's that is actual proof of another reality that is interplexing with this one. So people with Kundalini want to really begin to understand the strength of the dream state. It is an actual reality. It's not just your imagination. As a matter of fact, there is no such thing as just your imagination. Okay, the human has the capability of creating specific realities, and after you die, you can create your own reality. You can create the reality of living in a beautiful sunset, if that's what you want to do. And by Robert Monroe, called Journeys Out of the Body. Well, as you astral project, you can go to areas where people have died, as I have done, and you can converse with these people. Say, well, how are things going now? To some guy that's living in a sunset, or his consciousness is creating sunsets, and just having a kind of a good time, actually. It's a you can get bogged down into religion, and for the Christians, if you've been a sinner, and all of them are sinners, except maybe on Sunday, but the other 6 days of the week they're sinners. They talk about a lake of fire and burning, all of this, and it's just kind of not the way it is. So you sorry if I'm stepping on anybody's toes. Actually, I'm not sorry for that, because people need to hear some of the truth. So yeah, these alternate realities are true realities. They are real. They are real. When you go into the dream state, it is real. I had a dream a while back in my process where there were three of us, and there were three individuals. They had a sword. We all had a sword. We were all fighting each other with this sword, right? This other creature comes along, and I say creature because it did not fit the the Adama form. It did not have a human being shape to it. It had shape, but it looked like a bunch of discs stacked on each other in different ways. So one disc would sit halfway on another disc, and then various permutations along that theme. And it was really smart, and it was really powerful, and it was separating us. We try to fight with each other, and it would come in and separate us, and it was telepathically pushing it out. No, this is not how you solve your problems. This is not how you find resolution. You do not kill. And it was very adamant. It was very powerful. It could literally stop you in your tracks from doing these types of things. And this is what the Kundalini will open you up to. It is a true reality. It is a true reality. It is not this idea, this scientific psychological idea of, oh, it's just your imagination, or oh, you're having emotional expression from your workday come in, and that's your dream. And then we get into certain levels of dream interpretation, which is alternate reality interpretation. And within a Kundalini context, it's very different from people that are not having the Kundalini. When the people that are not having Kundalini, when they see a spider, oh my God, they don't want to let the spider bite them, and they'll run from that spider, and that spider may just keep chasing them. But within the Kundalini context, you turn around and you say, okay, I give myself to you, take a big chunk. Same thing with the snake. It's like, don't waste anything. Take a big bite. And when you do, you're immediately transported into a kind of like a congratulatory state, because you were able to conquer that primitive primal fear that may have been holding you back. Important. Very, very important. So these alternate realities will be used by the Kundalini in order to educate you. And you might look at the example of the spider. You might look at the spider weaving a web. Okay, so the spider weaves the web, and what she's doing is that she's like the cosmic spider, and she's weaving a web of different realities and presenting you upon that web the different realities that are there for you to learn from, that are there for you to educate you and to help refine you into a more fearless consciousness. and a more accepting consciousness, a more loving consciousness. Many of the people, actually almost all the people that see the sacred spider, she's very friendly. She may lower herself on you, and you may see this giant car-sized spider lowering itself on you, but you'll feel very, very loving emanations coming from it, and she won't, she doesn't do anything bad to you. It's just that fear. She's got to get through that fear. Look, I'll tell you, I am no lover of arachnids, but I don't hate them. I don't fear them the way I used to, because I realize what they are. And this whole planet is full of them, and there's far more arachnid species than there are people in the world. Seriously, far more. We're talking trillions. With billions, like 9, 10, 12 billion people, there are like 100 trillion arachnids, and we're not even talking about the crabs that are also arachnids, in the ocean. Although we're doing our best to destroy the ocean, so there's fewer of those. But looking here at the chat room, I see that Zura Zoidza is saying, hello, dear Chrism, and I'll say hello back. Please feel free to call in to the call-in number if you have any questions, or if you'd like to just participate in the program. The number is area code 347-850-8464. You can use Skype to call in. You just use that number, 347-850-8464 is the call-in number. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that have been written about. Now, here's this one person right here. I wrote this last night. The difference between physical flesh and divine flesh is so vast, and the changes within the transformation can be so big that it will, by necessity, trigger a level of extreme difficulty within the person. And the person will have to learn to acclimate. This is and I'm not reading now, this is the introduction of the new reality to the individual. And you don't get to really have a choice about this. Lots of people go into resistance because the normal reality that they have been experiencing since birth has now been shattered. They've seen an entity, or their kidneys are expanding, or they're going into kriyas, or they're hearing their name called, or they're seeing floating lights around them, all of this stuff. And so somebody asked me a question. She said, so once the ego has surrendered, would it be fair to say that physical desires diminish? No, not at all. No, if any, they'll also increase. They can be taken away. The physical desires, like if you're in a relationship, with one person, and say that person has the Kundalini. The Kundalini can take away the desire for, like, say, intimate desires or libido. It can remove the libido completely, simply because it's going to use that reproductive force, that force of creation, of creativity, of what it uses to make a child with. It will now put into the transformation of the individual. It doesn't mean that the partner is any less valued or any less of a loving, partner. It just means that the Kundalini is using the reproductive frequencies and creation in order to transform the individual towards semi-divinity. This is what it's about, folks. So don't get yourself upset because, oh my gosh, I don't have a libido anymore, and I have Kundalini, and it's taking the libido from me, and oh my God, my husband or my wife is like going, what happened, honey? What's going on here? Maybe we got to go to that EDD clinic. And it's no, we're having the Kundalini. It's the Kundalini clinic, and there are other ways that I can help you with that, and then of course you might want to explore some of those other ways. So it's important for people to understand that. It's not, it's really not all about sex. You really want to kind of get that into your mindset. Um, oh yeah. So here's another question. Says somebody has wrote to me. Says a lot has happened in my life, and I have a special needs child who was assaulted at the school in the worst way possible. And I see a psychologist, but I'm having difficulties with my personal life also. I have no one who I can talk to about it, and hoping to shed some light. Well, yeah, uh, school is not safe. It's just not safe, but it's a necessity. We go to school whether we're special needs or not. In my opinion, we're all special needs children. Just some kids acclimate quicker than others. Uh, there's a lot of karma that comes to bear within childhood. Kids have their own world. They know that they're totally not in control. They know that mom and dad have final say about everything. They know that they learn pretty quickly what power and position consists of, and they begin to mimic the way the parents project power and position. And some kids will pick on other kids because the you know they themselves have been picked on, and if they are molested by a parent, then they will molest other children. That's how it works. Okay, and you just have to if your child has experienced such a thing, then you just need to give that child as much love and as much comfort as possible, and maybe remove them from that school where that one child is abusing other kids, if you can. And if you cannot, then you need to tell that school principal or the counselor, whatever it is, what occurred, where it occurred, when it occurred, and make sure that the child that is abusing other children is no longer available to abuse the other kids. So that's kind of my advice that you take with that. Coming into some of the this is from the Kundalini group, so I just want you to know that these are the issues that Kundalini people have to deal with as well. And sometimes, uh, you know, here's a person that they just wrote this 20 minutes ago, so I have not seen this, but here we go. I saw a very strange and horrible dream in the morning. I saw a red-colored hot air balloon fell on the buildings and made a disaster. I ran from there. In between, someone started following me. Don't know who she was. She was trying to chase me, but I escaped. Then I entered into a building and locked myself into a room. I saw a black dog inside that room, but it didn't harm me. The dog was staring at me. I was very scared. And then I jumped out of the window. So you know that this is a true reality. It's a true reality that does not have the same laws as the physical reality, but it is still truth. Okay? I jumped out of the window. After a few seconds, I came back to that room again and locked myself in fear. Suddenly, I heard a lot of commotion outside the building. Then I looked out of the window. I saw my face. My body was lying there. I was dead. I was screaming, but nobody was listening to me. I was telling myself that, no, I'm still alive. I wanted to go home as soon as possible. Remembering my family, I was feeling that, will I do without my body now? Feeling helpless and wanted to enter into my body. I was very upset. What was that? I have never seen this kind of dream in my life. Okay, so the first thing is I saw a red-colored hot air balloon. Red is the color of the first chakra. That it fell on the buildings and made a disaster is that it fell upon this individual's idea of reality and basically destroyed her reality. But because she's having this happen in a dream, it's not going to actually affect her waking reality yet. Okay, yet. But the process is in the works. It won't be a red balloon, but the chakra is going to open up, and as the Kundalini opens up, it begins to change the reality in such a way that the ego of the individual, the egotism of the individual, runs away in fear because, oh my God, this is a disaster. And then someone started to follow her, but it was a she, it was a feminine. This would be sacred feminine. Okay, this would be Shakti chasing her. She was trying to chase me, but I escaped. Okay, so Shakti wasn't trying too hard, but she was chasing her. Okay, and then I entered into a building, locked myself into a room, and then I saw a black dog inside that room. Well, a black dog is another representation of sacred feminine. Often it'll be a black dog with red glowing eyes, which just is added to incite more fear into the person so that they can confront that fear. I saw a black dog inside that room, but it didn't harm me. Well, this Kundalini's not here to harm you. That's your ego that is interpreting any kind of a change or transformation to the reality as an assault on that reality. And it is not an assault. It is just a transformation, a new manifestation of awareness that the ego is not familiar with, and therefore it is going to go into extreme levels of fear. Okay, so and this is Nora, the giant German Shepherd, is walking around behind me. Hopefully she's not going to... Yep, here she comes. Hi, sweetheart. Yes, I wasn't talking about you, but maybe a little bit, because you are kind of that way. When people see you, they tend to cross the street. No, honey, no. Wait. Anyway, so then I jumped out the window. And, I jumped out the window and I came back to the room again. So Shakti is now teaching her a lesson about what it is to commit harm upon yourself, to commit suicide, right? I jumped in, I came back to the room again, and suddenly I heard a commotion outside, and I looked out the window, saw my face, my body was lying there, I was dead. And I was screaming. But nobody was listening to me because nobody could hear her, because Shakti was allowing her to go, well, this is what happens when you commit suicide because you're afraid of a new reality that is transforming your idea of reality. Okay. And she was telling herself that, no, I'm still alive and I want to go home as soon as possible. Well, you don't get to go home by jumping out the window. And basically, this is a dream teaching that is telling her that as that red balloon opens up, and as the reality is the single consciousness reality is destroyed by the intervention of another reality, a concurrent reality, you're really not going to be able to run away. Shakti will chase you or let you have that fear, but she'll also calm you down by letting you look at a black dog that's not hurting you. And then your ego tries to take the extreme method and jumps out the window, and this is not to be done. You are not to try to hurt yourself by jumping out of a window. And this is what happens if you do. Boom. You're basically sequestered in the place where you tried to kill yourself, and without any kind of... nobody can hear you anymore because now you're dead. So you're not going to be able to go home because now you're dead. Now you're in this room. Okay? So suicide is not an answer. Suicide is not an option. It just puts you into a loop. Okay? So this is very, very important. This is a dream teaching that everybody can partake of. Okay? It's funny how it kind of dovetails with this conversation we've been having about different concurrent realities. Okay? And she's adding a whole new other level that I didn't discuss, which is about suicide. Suicide does not solve the problem, ever. It does not solve the problem. Thank you, Inara. Inara is sitting down being patient now. It does not solve the problem. It exacerbates the problem. It makes the problem harder to deal with because you don't have a physical body to resolve the issue with. And so what you're going to really need to look at is how to control your egotistic fears. Okay? You don't get to run away from Kundalini. And this person was basic. She doesn't know now, but her, if she's listening to this program, and I'll try to write to her a little bit too, she'll begin to understand what is being given to her. You see, the understanding here is very, very different from what a psychologist would tell you. Psychologists would say, well, it looks like that you were having a problem riding in a hot air balloon, that you might have a fear of heights, and that your fear of heights is indicated by the hot air balloon crashing, and here's another drug. Give me another drug here. They don't understand. They don't understand Kundalini. They don't even recognize Kundalini. This is how far back they are. They don't even recognize Kundalini. They just basically recognize chemistry. Anyway, so this is a very important teaching for everybody. And she does come as a black dog. And she does come as a woman or a feminine presence. And she does come in a red-colored balloon, if you want to look at the first chakra that way. And you don't jump out of a window because you're afraid of a new reality. No. Suicide is never the answer. And she's showing you that because now nobody can hear you. Now they don't know that you're even in that room. You can't go home. You're just locked in that room. There you go. Have a nice eternity. Kind of the lesson that's being pushed out there. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next lesson here. Yes. Well, I guess, I don't know. Talking about entities, I suppose we can do that. Okay. Last night, I woke up again. I was half asleep, half awake, and I saw only the face. It was a dark male face in front of me. I was paralyzed and couldn't move. I just got goosebumps all over the body, and my heart started pumping like crazy, but I couldn't move. We were looking at each other, and I just started praying. Although I felt horrible fear, I knew there was nothing he can do to me. And then it disappeared. I woke up still, had the goosebumps all over my body, my heart racing like crazy. So I know it was very real. Bingo. It was very real, because that is true. There was a horrible, weird kind of fear, but I knew he cannot do anything if I don't let it. Am I right? There you go. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's a test. That's another fear test. It's very similar to this last dream, true reality, but we'll call it a dream, where, the reality is being kind of shattered. And this is another way that the egotistical five-sense reality can be shattered. Kundalini will allow an entity, a terror-based entity, to get right into your face and to look at you, and, you'll be paralyzed with fear, but something in you will go, yeah, but, you can't do anything to me. So once you get that realization, boom, all the power is lost, and you come out of that the winner. You come out of that the winner because you have just realized that even though it is a true reality and the experience was very real, You controlled it by controlling your fear. So it's really good. It was a very, very, very good dream, and this person came out the winner. So congratulations, Miss Hubby. Very well done. Well done. You did very well. And we move on here in this little advertisement about the radio show. Yeah, okay. Here, this isn't spoken about as much as I'd like it to be because it's dealing with, areas of the rectum and these areas, and people have a hard time talking about the areas around their bum or their rear end or their rectal areas, the defecation-based areas. So, if you look, the Kundalini releases a very strong level of detoxification for a person. Okay, it releases many toxins and also many acids from the body. If your body is really acidic, it releases those acids from the body, and a lot of those acids will come out in the mucus areas of the defecation. And unless you clean that from your skin, it will burn your skin. You've got to be very, very, very present with that part of your body, with the bum, with the rear end, the rectal areas, because it doesn't get a lot of air, it doesn't get a lot of sunshine, it doesn't get a lot of the quality that, say, your hand or your ear or your eyes get, and yet it still needs to be kept really, really clean. And so if you have a bidet, B-I-D-E-T, a bidet, and if you don't know what a bidet is, it's some of the some homes have it with the toilet, and it's a device that washes the rectum. You have control of the water and the temperature of the water, and it washes a lot of the excess defecation that is still on the skin after you've attempted to clean it with tissue. It's very important to do this, ladies and gentlemen. It can become very unpleasant, and you can get a permanent rash there. Permanent rash, okay, meaning it doesn't go away, and it's continuously itchy, and it opens up, a very strong level of unnecessary skin eruptions. So you can also improvise with that. You can, clean it with water. You have a little squirt bottle there or something, and clean it. Not necessarily soap. You notice the bidet doesn't have a soap insert on it. Just the water. Just the water, because that's very sensitive skin in that area, and it doesn't build up calluses. It doesn't have the qualities of acclimation to different environments like your hands or your feet do. Okay, so just the water. Put a little, fill up a bottle that you can squeeze or in some way eject the water onto the area so that you can clean that up really well. Okay, very important because of the level of detox that the Kundalini does within your purification. For a number of years, you will want to do this. Okay, you got to remember, you've had maybe 30 years of life, or how many years you have before the Kundalini activated, to have all of these issues build up in your body, these toxins, these acids, all the different problems that you have. And Kundalini knows that if she flushed them out of you immediately, that could kill you. So a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. Every time you go to the bathroom, every time you urinate, Every time, more toxins are released. More toxins are released every single time. And she does it in an incremental fashion. She changes how you eat. She changes how you think. Through the introduction of concurrent realities, she changes how you experience life on this world. And one of those changes is the extreme detoxification that can occur, more so than an unawakened or unactivated person. And so, it is important for you to do this. Keep that area clean. All right, enough of that. Let's see. Well, I'm going to run through this because it's helpful, I think, for people to know. These are things that the Kundalini is not. Kundalini is not about angels or angelic healing, although you may see some. It's not about angel cards or angel card readings. It's not about Reiki Kundalini, not Kundalini at all. It's not about Kundalini yoga, which is trying to activate Kundalini just through yoga, and the yoga is basically kind of a monkey see, monkey do thing with yoga positions, because of the kriyas that are produced by Kundalini, have been turned into yoga asanas. It's not about empaths, although you can become very empathic. It's not about veganism or vegan dietary-based lifestyles at all. Veganism is not suggested. That is just another egotistic, dietary, judgmental lifestyle that really is not helpful at all. At all. And yes, I know some of you are vegans out there. Oh, I'm a vegan and I have Kundalini, so therefore, yeah. Okay, I can see what you're saying. But the mindset is wrong. The mindset is not helpful. I'm not saying you can't survive as a vegetarian. Look at all the Indian people. They're surviving as vegetarians. Not all of them, but, a good portion of them. But veganism is a refusal to learn the lessons of the Sacred Mother upon this world that she has created for you to learn lessons on. And that means life consumes life. And you have got to get that into your heart and into your head. You don't realize all the different lives that you're killing when you eat a head of lettuce. All the microorganisms that have eyes, all the bacteria that have eyes, sensory projections. The plants themselves have feelings, have emotions, and you're eating them without regard. But if it's a mammal and it has eyes to look at you with, oh, well, we can't eat that. So it's not a good choice for a dietary lifestyle. So Kundalini really isn't about that. Kundalini is really about being an omnivore or a vegetarian as dictated by the Kundalini, or just a carnivore as dictated by the Kundalini. Okay. And I mean that, dictated by the Kundalini. If she tells you just to eat meat, then that's all you eat. If she tells you just to eat fruits and vegetables, that's all you eat. And you're grateful for the gift of life from that creature that has life, plants or animals or bacteria, whatever it may be. You're grateful and you have gratitude for that gift of life for your life. They live within you. Okay, so there's that. This is not about magic, Enochian magic, or all the various forms of magic like witchcraft or sorcery. The Kundalini is not about that. Not at all. Okay. It's not about astrology, Vedic astrology, or Chinese astrology, or Western astrology. It's not about astrology. I'm not saying astrology is completely off the mark. I'm just saying Kundalini isn't really about that. Okay. It's not about crystals. Although, very shortly, I'm going to use crystals as an example of the refinement process that Kundalini people, or that people in general, are put through in order to get Kundalini. And I'll be posting that with pictures on the Facebook Kundalini Awakening exclamation point group. Moving on, it's not about Chinese medicine or acupuncture, although those areas can help. It's not about that, though. It's not about theta healing or martial arts or mediums. You know, it's not about you becoming a medium and going, I am the greatest Santa Claus of old. I am coming into this body because I know that you want to see your dead ones for Christmas, and I will put them in the stocking for you. So, no, it's not about mediumship. It's not about tarot, although I have to say in my early process, you know, I was using tarot to find out what the heck was going on. So I can say that from my own experience, tarot has been, you know, helpful, but not about Kundalini. It's like a telephone in a way. It's not about being a Rosicrucian. It's not going to help you. Being a magi, it's just kind of like being a sorcerer. That's not going to help you. It's not about any religion, although religion and its different protocols can help with the Kundalini. Not help by, you know, any kind of resolution of Kundalini symptoms or the new realities that are coming in, but by putting a person into an extreme level of devotion to God. That is how religion can help. Okay? But it's not about religion. It goes beyond religion. At the tip top of the mountain that we call religion is where Kundalini begins. It's not about mesmerism. Your eyes are getting very sleepy. So it's not about, you know, being hypnotized. Very sleepy. It's not about Satanism or devil worshiping. It's not about being a golden dawn or practicing, you know, sahaja. It's not about those things at all. And it's not about yoga either. Yoga is more just an emulation of Kundalini Kriyas, automatic positioning. So it's not about a twin flame thing. Jeez. I get a lot of twin flamers wanting to come on the site and say, well, I was activated by my twin. And it's like, yeah, okay. And that may have occurred. That may have occurred, but the whole twin flame soulmate thing is really more of a fantasy, kind of a love-based fantasy of what you might want in addition to your husband or your wife. Whatever. It's got a lot of egotism mixed into it, and so it is really not about Kundalini as much as it is about egotism. This is not a starseed or an ET-oriented group, although I know for a fact that ETs are messing around with Kundalini people. Big time. So I know that they're really trying to mess with it. I don't find them very positive creatures either. I think some of them are actually quite violent. So there you have it. As far as what it isn't. Now let's see if I have any questions, any call-ins here. Okay, good. And let's see, Zura. Zura says, can you say a few words about top-down activation? Okay. Traps of ego for former drug users. Yes, I can say a few things about that. You bet. Top down is when a person has been focusing way too much on, say, third eye activation, and they using drugs, as he says, using drugs, magic mushrooms, LSD, having a top-down activation really is much more difficult than having a bottom-to-top activation. The reason being is it's much more difficult to go from refinement, where everything is just like in a perfect formation, back into the chaos of density. It's much more difficult to go into density from refinement rather than going from density into refinement. Okay, So this is something for some of you, who are doing a lot of hallucinogens. This is something for you to consider because it is not it is not easy to go into back into densities. So you get the Kundalini. You're doing your ayahuasca. You're doing your LSD. You're doing your magic mushrooms. Maybe you're doing them all together. It's like storming the gates of heaven. And the Kundalini comes to you and begins to open your third eye and begins to have a direct effect upon your crown chakra. And some of you feel really good. Some of it's like it is the way to go for you, or it wouldn't be happening. And so for some of you, it is horrid, just a terrible, terrible thing to do, and it opens you up to a level of entity domination that the bottom to top will not. Uh, you know, I know of some people that have been totally taken over by entities that are having a top down during the LSD or during the mushroom experience. During that experience, that person gets taken over and does not come back. After that, the body is used by the entity that took over the person. So we'll say Joe Smith got taken over by an entity that's feminine based, right? It's a female entity. Well, all of a sudden, Joe Smith's wearing dresses and putting on makeup, and because Joe Smith is no longer in charge of that body. The entity that took him over is. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not making any comment on cross-dressers or homosexuality or anything like that. I'm just saying that the entity took over Joe Smith was feminine, and because that entity has not moved on but has retained the psychological gender ideology that it had as from its last life, well, it is now taking Joe over, and Joe is just a finger puppet for this entity. And this can happen more so with the top down than with the bottom to top. Not suggested to use psychedelics in order to activate the Kundalini. I do not suggest that at all, ever. The only one that I think has the best safety levels would be ayahuasca. And then you got to make sure you find an ethical and moral shaman to take that from. And really, that's important because they can insert things inside of an ayahuasca ceremony that will try to control you, that may try to change you. If you're a good-looking person, male or female, depending on the cravings of the shaman, well, they can make you want to stick with them or to be with them all the time. Okay, so be careful with that. Be careful with your ayahuasca use. Make sure you have a shaman that is good. Alonso del Rio in the Sacred Valley of Peru is an ethical shaman, definitely. And I can recommend him strongly. So Alonso del Rio. In English, that means Alonso of the River. He's got a river right next to his place. And if you go on my YouTube channel at Chrism O Kundalini on YouTube, I have a few videos about the ayahuasca experience and talking with Alonso himself. So you feel free to have a look over there if you like. Let's see. A lot of the top downers will have some extreme experiences of a visual nature because they've been working on their third eye. Not all of it is pretty, and it can be actually devastatingly not pretty. And because they haven't done the lower chakra work, there's constantly a feeling that they've missed something, they're missing something. Something is not right. They have a hard time grounding, and that's because their lower chakras are not even activated. Okay, so it can be a very, very challenging position to put yourself into, and I'll suggest that you do the safety protocols, www.kundalinisafeties.com, all one word, Kundalini Safeties, and to practice the bottom to top sequences, which is what most of the activators and awakeners do that aren't using drugs. Okay, so there we have that. And you're welcome, Zura. You're definitely welcome for that. And moving on here, I'm scrolling here right now, so okay. All right. Everything that I say to you on this radio program, everything that I write to you in the various groups that I write in, these come straight from the Kundalini source within me. Everything. There's a certain part of me that just clicks off. I'm not there anymore. And she steps in and she uses my vocabulary. She uses the phrasing that she likes to use through me. She literally will sculpt a communication. And I don't get a big say in that. But I find that I'm almost 100% in agreement with what she says. So I want you to know that. Even now, I don't have a script. I don't have any kind of a tool except just opening to what the Shakti says. Okay. Looking for some questions here. Self-correction is very important. Self-correction towards the noble behaviors will nourish the Kundalini. Noble behaviors being compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, unconditional love, appreciation, tolerance, self-discipline, non-attachment. These are very, very important noble behaviors. And if you can self-correct yourself towards these, write them down. And this will nourish your Kundalini. And self-correction towards serving others rather than serving yourself will nourish the Kundalini as well. So, once again, serve others. Just like that St. Francis of Assisi prayer, let me not be so much as served as I give that service to another. Okay? That was not a direct quote, by the way. Self-denial in being in control or being right or being praised also nourishes the Kundalini, because these are egotistical aspects of a consciousness. And the more you're in control of the ego, i.e., self-denial of letting the ego be in control, or letting the ego be right, or letting the ego be praised, will nourish the Kundalini. And this is a truth. These are all truths. All right, so it looks like I'm about to wind down this conversation, and I just want to say thank you to our special benefactors who have created this Blog Talk program, and who has told me that the archives will never ever be erased. But even so, I would like any of you and all of you who hear this to copy this and put it on YouTube. Put it on YouTube and let others participate in having some of this information. It can be very helpful, and YouTube is the most widely used social media platform. And so let's get some of these conversations on YouTube. And for those of you that are listening in the archives, thank you for listening to the program. For those of you that are on the chat room, hello, all of you. I see you all. And I want to thank you as well for listening to the program. Thank you for everyone listening on Facebook. And I will end it the way we started it. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.